Hello and welcome to the Knit Girls Part 2. This is episode 550. We recorded on Tuesday and then it decided to have no sound. So
Yep.
we're back again.
Yep, like a bad rash.
So I'm Laura, also known as Lala.
I am Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les. We both use she, her pronouns, and it is October the 21st, 2021. Like Laura said, we've recorded once already this week, but the sound card or something in the software decided to just not cooperate, and there was no saving it, so here we go again.
There was no sound at all. It would have been like really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it might be fun to just like dub over it with my comments, but it might be a little unfair to you. So
okay.
So yeah. Plus, I don't always know what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean
so
that's often something that happens.
we go off on tangents at times.
We do. Would you like to go for? What are you knitting on? What are you working on? Or do you want me to? You have nothing on your hands. Would you like me
No,
to go
I mean
first?
I'll go first real quick
Okay.
since you're not at the end of a row.
I'm not.
So I'm working on two things. One you have seen before. This is
I've seen everything before.
That's true. This is Camino Bubbles, which is I stopped in the middle of a row. Which is a pattern by Kieran Foley. And it is out of Leading Men Fiber Arts King Max colorway. I don't remember the base. But it's a fun drop stitch project that produces these bubbles.
It's super neat.
And I'm just making it into like a long scarf /
I think
stole.
last time we decided you had 32 total repeats to do.
Yeah, and I think I'm at 19 or something like that. Or 18 and a half, somewhere in there. I am enjoying this, but it's kind of boring at this point because I've done this repeat 18 times at least. So I don't have to carry the pattern around with me or anything. I know how to stop and start the repeats, so it's just a sort of in-between project at this point in time.
Yeah, so when you finish a project and you don't know what to start next,
Mhm.
that's a good one to work on.
And I definitely have those
decide the next one.
like analysis paralysis issues, so it's a good thing to have something to fall back on. Usually that sucks.
Whereas I'm like, I want to knit all the projects.
And when you feel that way, you got to embrace it. 'Cause
Absolutely.
there are certainly times where you're like, I can't be bothered to make decisions. So if you already have stuff on the needles, that's helpful. The other thing I'm knitting, I just cast on, and this is called Parallelograys, and it's by Kino Knits. And this was part of a collection for which I do not remember the name. But it's linked in the show notes. Our show notes are on our website, which is TheKnitGirlls with 3Ls.com. And I'm using some yarn that our friend Holly gave me after she knit a version of this. I think she knit the beanie version, but I'm just going to knit more of like a slouchy version. And it's out of some...
I love this hat.
Oh God, it's Party of 5, Sweet Georgia. Party of 5 sets. And
It's cool that you know now that you can get 2
yeah,
out of one of their Party of 5 sets.
it calls for like 60 something yards per color.
Oh, wow.
So almost any mini set that you get, you should be able to, if you've got at least 5 colors, you could make this
This
work.
might be a great one for if you get an advent calendar. You could totally use some of it for this.
Yeah.
Or if
And
you
you don't
have-
necessarily have to have at least 60 whatever yards, because that's for the cumulative total of the repeats. So if you had lots of different colors, you could
Ooh, you could do
alternate.
a rainbow one.
Yeah.
This would also be great to do like different pride flag colors and stuff like that. Oh, that'd be fun.
So you use the middle color, assuming you're using some sort of gradient. I used color 3 for the brim, and then I used colors 1, 2, 4, and 5 for the hat itself. I totally screwed up.
Oh no.
Well, I say totally screwed up. You're supposed to have, it's like, you've got a 4 like ridge repeat. So you use colors 1 and 5 or whatever And then you alternate them, and then you use colors 2 and 4, and then you alternate them, and then you're supposed to do that over and over. Well, I at some point got mixed up, so like this doesn't match this like it's
Oh,
supposed
yeah.
to. But I just figured I don't care. This way, I'll just continue to keep mixing them up, and whatever it ends up being, it's still a bunch of grays. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm still not great at tensioning Fair Isle because it requires you to use your left hand. I mean, there are different ways to knit a Fair Isle item. Some of them you're only using one hand, but I prefer to try to use two hands. And because I'm such a tight knitter, and because it's what several much smarter knitters and teachers have advised, you put the dominant color, which is the color that you want to lay sort of on top of the background, that needs to be in your non-dominant hand. Because your dominant hand will tend to pull the yarn a little tighter, and that'll help it fade into the background. So, at least that's the way I understand it. Please do your own research, because
Did you use a tutorial for that?
nothing I say can be trusted. So I was on Isolde's site, because I did a tubular cast on. That's the cast on I tend to like for my hats, because it gives the brim just sort of it started out of nowhere kind of appearance. There's no clear cast on. It just looks like part of the hat. And I looked at her site as well as who else's site did I look at when I was looking at information about Fair Isle?
Can't help you with that.
I don't remember.
Kate Davies?
No,
maybe?
it was somebody we've had at SSK, and whose name...
Kirsten Kapoor.
Yes! Thank you!
You're welcome.
I was like, I know this person. I can see her face.
She's so sweet.
Yes. And actually, I still have a handout that she gave out in one of her classes. Super simple, single page, front and back. And
that was the first SSK.
And it has great tips on Fair Isle knitting. If you get a chance to take a class with Kirsten, she's brilliant and very kind. So, yeah, so that's the second item that I'm working on. I separated my colors into a very fancy system of a clear plastic bag, and then I just took some thread and did a long hand running stitch up the center to keep the two from getting tangled up. I could have just used 4 bags, but this way was less hassle for me, so that's what I went with. Are you still in the middle of a row? Oh, you're working on socks now.
Well,
okay.
I switched because I knew if I started another
That's
row
when I'd be done.
on the sweater, well, every row in the sweater is taking me 5 minutes, so I know.
That's better. It was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's half the stitches. So yeah. It should...
Oh, are you on like one of the sides now of the front?
No. Well, I'm on a front.
It's split from the neck, though.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
It's split for the sleeves. It's not split for the neck yet. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm confused,
I'm
but that's
so
okay.
confused
I'll take
too.
a look when you show it.
Alright, so socks. I finished the first spooky sock out of Ep550. I'm knitting this on size 0 needles. It might be a little bit long in the foot, but I was having fun with some friends when we went out of town last weekend. So if it doesn't fit me, it will fit my sister, but I have a feeling it'll fit me. This will be my 12th pair of Halloween socks. I counted the other day. So that's exciting. And I've worn all of them so far this season. And then I started the second one. Well, at my never-ending... So I had like one of those weeks last week where like everything breaks. Or a lot of things break.
Yeah.
So the heating and cooling in my house went down. And Saturday morning I woke up with a nail in my tire. So I went to get that fixed, and I figured it'd be a quick fix. It was not. And so, and the AC guy, the repair guy, was early, so Leslie went over and took the AC guy to my house while I was trapped at the auto place. But I got the whole cuff plus a smidge done during my 3-hour, 4-hour tire repair. So that is,
Did you have any reason to think it would take that long? Like, had it ever taken that long before?
well, I don't know that I haven't been in that, no,
Okay.
no.
Just curious.
So I switched to a different
Okay.
auto place, for tires recently,
Mhm.
and I really like the new place. It's Discount Tire, and when you go in, everyone's wearing masks, everything's spaced out at this one.
Yeah.
But they're always super busy, but they give you a text that tells you, like, how long it'll be, and it well exceeded their expectation of the time that it would take. But, it just I mean, I had knitting to do, but
I guess they probably are as affected as anybody by the, employee issue shortage.
they also, one cool thing, they have like a board at the front, which I didn't notice till I went to ask them, hey, like, can you give me an update on time? And it's kind of like a flight board, and it puts your name and it moves you up and down.
That's cool.
Like, they definitely use technology.
I'm a fan of companies that embrace new ways to use technology.
I think you would like this place, and there was no, one of the reasons, Anyway, the reason why I switched was my old tire place was not doing any kind of masks. Like, no one wore masks, and it was a very small space. And anyway, I like Discount Tire a whole bunch, but it's take more time, and it's super popular over here in Goodman. So I went to the Hex Cross one because I wanted to go to Costco. See, y'all know so much about my life now. Because I wanted to get salmon, because that is a thing that Leslie and I do. When I go to Costco, I make her salmon.
And then I got salmon Saturday night.
She got salmon for going to my house.
Yeah.
She would have gotten salmon anyway. We do need to try that new restaurant and the new seafood place in Horn Lake. That's supposed to be fabulous sometime.
What is it called?
Crazy Lou's.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Fat Squirrel Halloween cat's bag makes me super happy. So that is staying in there, and that lives in my Backpack Lifestyle backpack. Not an official brand, it's a Tom Bid. But Leslie always makes fun of me for carrying my backpack everywhere. Alright, so this is the sweater. The back is done. Those are stitches on holders.
Shoulders.
Yep, the shoulders on holders. The front is
Shoulders on holders. That's
shoulders
our
on
episode
holders.
title.
The front is,
I will help hold it if you would like.
yeah, if you want to hold the back up. This is the most tangled. There we go. So the front's like that. So it's almost to that point. I have to get to like 7.5 inches, and then I do the shoulder shaping, which is done with German short rows. And then there's more of the texture stitch, the herringbone, and then it'll be done. Well, that's not true. I have to pick up and knit the neck edge. I have to pick up and knit the sleeves. And I have to pick up and knit the bottom edge.
Oh, and also it's hand spun, and you're almost out of yarn.
Yeah,
so you have to spin the rest of the yarn.
So I have another 4-ounce braid. Don't be alarmed. So I'm hoping this will get me through like the front. Maybe the picking up of the neckline. That would be amazing too. But we're just hoping for the front at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is being knit on size 6 needles and then 7s for the herringbone. But I do feel like I know I wanted to get to the point where I was out of yarn, but I do feel like, so I finished the backs, and then from this point up, so a good like 4 inches. I'm pretty happy with that. It's taking around, now I think I did my math wrong on how long a row was taking me. It's taking me around an hour to knit an inch. So I have around 3 more hours worth of knitting before I start doing the short rows. Anyway.
Okay. Well, I can't wait for it to be done.
I can't either because I want to wear it. I'm excited to wear it.
Yeah, no, it's not because I'm tired of hearing about it. I love looking at it every week that you bring it out.
And then I've already lined up 2 other sweater projects after this, so not out of hand spun. So we'll do some commercial stuff, and then we'll go back. I'm hoping to finish the spinning for the next hand spun sweater, so that I can start that after those. Those should be quick. I wanted to do some quicker, not fingering weight hand spun sweaters, which all I have is like fingering weight hand spun. So for sweaters right now, so I have a vest that I want to do that's out of an Aran weight, that I have the commercial yarn, the Barocco remix for already, that it calls for, and then I have some worsted that a viewer sent me that I want to use for the new Jacqueline Slick pattern.
Oh, okay, the one with the slightly puffy sleeves.
They're just larger.
Not right.
Yeah, they're just, it's...
They don't follow a typical decrease pattern.
It's an interesting pattern, so you actually cast on here, using a provisional, work the top and the sleeves, so it's like a huge boxy thing, and then you go down with short rows. It's really interesting. Like, the construction looks interesting, so it'll be one of those ones where I think I'll learn a lot too, which is always fun.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, some fiber company for that. But yeah, those are the plans. We'll see if they come into fruition.
I have one finished thing. This is the Geometry by Christina Gerlanda out of Noro Mirai. And it's your typical Noro mix of like cotton,
You knit that super fast.
It was on a size 10, so it went pretty quickly. Plus it was like less than 700 yards, so this is what it looks like. Sorry, it's a little skewed at the moment. So it's a very short cropped tee. The thing to note on this is that your row gauge is as important as your stitch gauge, because this section on the side is knitted sideways. So I ended up with more fabric underneath because I should have knitted it shorter. I should have ended the sleeves sooner, because I ended up with this sort of extra 3 inches or so. So instead of it sort of hugging around the side of my body, it sort of like drapes in a slightly weird way. I mean, I still wear it. I was wearing it last time we recorded.
Which you'll never see.
No. But it was very quick. It would be a good hand-spun project, because you could mix, I mean, assuming that your colors were complementary, you could do one color for the front and back and one color for the sides. But yeah, it was very quick knit. I learned how to Kitchener in rib, which was an interesting experience. I learned that also from Isolde's blog. And that's Isolde Teague, YSOLDA.com. Yeah, there was no specific pattern for how to bind off and knit 4 or purl 2, so I had to sort of mesh it together to figure it out. But yeah, there were great instructions on Isolde's blog, so I made it work after I Kitchenered it on the first time, and then had to pick it out and do it again.
Woolly Wormhead also has really good grafting tutorials.
Yeah, yes, you told me about this last time, and there I go again. Using Kitchener as the word instead of grafting. This is sideways, and I can't quite figure out, because we're mirrored, I can't quite figure out how to fix it. So, Kitchener was a person, right?
Yes.
And the term should actually be grafting, not Kitchenering.
Yep.
So, she told me that
it's
when we
just more specific
more accurate
to say grafting. Yeah.
For sure, because that's like, instead of saying Navajo plying, you should say chain plying, because the Navajo had several ways that they plied, and it wasn't always with that specific like chain like stitch, technique. So it's more accurate to be
to describe the technique, not using
not
a proper
where it
noun.
came from, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. This, I think I've said everything I needed to say about it. The only other thing that I'm working on is my niece, who is 17. Kobe stopped going trick-or-treating when he was about 15, I think. But part of that is just because we don't really have any close family around here with kids near his age that go, and the neighborhood that we live in is predominantly retired people, so there's not a lot of kids in this neighborhood. Uh, and he's not a super social kid, so he was like, "No, I'm fine, just staying at home."
I stopped around 15, I think, or 14.
I think I was 15 or 16. I think I went when I was 16 because I was in the band and we all decided we were gonna, like idiots, go from house to house screaming like banshees. But my niece, she has, a younger brother who still really enjoys trick-or-treating, so she takes him. And she wanted to be April ONeil, who is the reporter from the
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yep. She wore like a yellow jumpsuit in most of it. Oh, is that what you're making?
So I went and went to Joann's to find a pattern and picked.
That's a cute pattern.
Picked the one that didn't have buttons because I on like a schedule, because this has to be done for Halloween, which means I need to finish it this weekend. I didn't want to have to deal with zippers. So.
Oh, with your little petite pattern.
Yeah, so it's McCall's. It's got a zipper front, and I'm making this primary version just with slightly longer sleeves. I will try to remember to put a picture of April ONeil from the internet somewhere here, from the animation, from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
She was a character in
I don't own this image.
Live action,
It's from the internet. But yeah, and I ended up, so I found a couple of people online who had done this for like cosplay, and they actually recommended using this duck cloth. It's a slightly thicker, it's almost like an upholstery grade fabric, because the other, if you get like a quilter's cotton, it's pretty transparent in a light color, like a gold or a yellow. So you'd have to interface the whole thing, and I don't have time for that. So I got this like sort of gold yellow.
That is very gold yellow.
Duck cloth, and I've already cut the pattern and marked the pattern.
Look at you go.
And I will be working on sewing the pattern this weekend. So. Yeah, I very rarely get myself into obligation knitting, but...
Or crafting.
Yeah, or crafting. But I sort of got stuck into that one. Well, my sister sort of stuck me into that one. She was like, "April, you should ask your Aunt Leslie if she can make this for you." It's like, that's a dirty trick. So, anyway, that's it for me. And I have no spinning.
Oh, I have spinning. I totes do. Alright. So, let me get that out. Where did it go? I finished a skein. So, this is Knit Spin Farm. I lost the tag. It was mint something. And it is squishy and poofy. It was spun long draw on my matchless and then plied on the mini spinner. So it's a 2-ply, it is 220 yards, and it's squishy and makes me happy. So that is done. And then I also finished the singles of the Kim Dye's yarn in the Good Days, and this is on her Targi. And it's, I don't know, this coloring on the screen today is a little bit off, I feel like, in everything. But it's
sort of like, blowing it out a little bit.
Yeah, purples and blues and greens and just really, really pretty. Just on a customer service note, I ordered from Kim and the package went missing. And she immediately was like, "I will send out more stuff. Don't worry about it." It was just very sweet, great customer service, and she's just, I love buying from her. I've bought yarn from her before. I love her fiber, so she always makes me happy. She has a new Haunted Mansion colorway that I'm like, ooh. But yeah, and she also does, one thing she does is support local LYSs. So every local yarn store that carries her, she does like 2 colorways a month, and I really like this month's, and you can order from that local yarn shop, and then she dyes it up and sends it to them. So she's creating business for local yarn shops, which I also really, really love. So, yeah, those are done, and hopefully I will apply those sometime this weekend. I also just found my mask in this bag.
One of your thousands.
I do have a lot of masks. Yeah, so that is my current spinning. I'm still working on the sweater spin project out of the patchwork kit for a flax light. I think I've finished the 4th bobbin. I think that's the bobbin that I was on. I just finished a bobbin. So I think that was the 4th. So I'm moving on to the 5th, which should be the last, I think. And then I will rewind all the singles. Someone asked, why would you rewind singles? There's a ton of reasons, and Jillian Marino actually did a really good article for a spinoff that I linked in the comments of last week's video. The main thing is it allows you, especially when you're doing a project over a long period of time, it allows you to even out your twist. Mm-hmm. But also, for me, with this project where I'm using a lot of different colors, it's going to allow me to match up colors that don't look terrible together. So,
wait, so you're going to be intentionally matching colors when you're rewinding?
Not when I'm rewinding, when I'm plying. So when I rewind, I'm only going to put like 1 or 2 braids on each bobbin. And then if I come to, as I'm plying...
1 or 2 braids on each bobbin?
Like, because they're mini braid, like mini colors.
Oh, okay.
And I use those small weaving bobbins.
Yeah.
And so, then when I go to ply, I
so
start
these
plying.
Aren't variegated? Like, I guess I'm confused because the colors that you're spinning,
mm-hmm.
like the braids that you're spinning, they're not solid chunks of color.
They're not.
So how will you match up color?
But they're in the same color family, I was telling you. So when I'm plying off these bobbins, if I come to a color I don't like, I can break it.
Oh, well, so then it doesn't matter that it's 1 ounce bobbin or weaving
Well, it
bobbins.
makes it a little bit easier because then I can pick up another one
right.
that I do like and then go from there and just continue that process.
Okay, so it's not that it necessarily makes matching colors easier. It just puts it in smaller amounts so that you can more easily manage how you want the colors to play together.
Yeah, and it's easier to match because they're in the smaller increments so you can see what's on the bobbin versus it being on a big bobbin where they get lost in the middle.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of hassle, but I mean, I'm all about it for the reasons of like evening out your tension long term and like evening out your like the thickness of the yarn because you occasionally spin thinner or thicker.
Yeah, and that's another reason to do it. As you spin, you change your default a little bit, and so especially like I spin a lot when sports are on, so that also allows you to match up, you know, what you spun at the beginning maybe with something at the end so that you're not you're having a similar grist throughout the whole project.
I mean, it makes sense. I understand it. Laura's a much more intentional spinner. She has the ability to be a much more intentional spinner when she wants to be. So she can take a braid and say, okay, or 3 braids or whatever, and say, okay, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to strip it this way and spin it that way and ply it in this way so that when it's done, it'll have, you know, this amount of ply twist and it should be about this weight and the color will be distributed in this way. And it's brilliant. I don't have that capacity, nor do I aspire to, but it's definitely a skill.
I think for sweater spins, it's a little bit more. Now this one I just spun end-to-end flipped. Mm-hmm. So that's why you're seeing a lot of marling on this, because it was spun end-to-end, so the braid was just spun from one end to the other.
No stripping.
No stripping. And then on the opposite braid, because it was 2, this is a total of 8 ounces, so 2 braids, I just flipped it the other direction, so it's intentionally marled throughout the entire project. What I'll do with the last 4 ounces that I have is I'll split that in half down the center and do the same effect.
Yeah.
It will create...
Flip it end to end.
The only problem with that is it will create shorter repeats of the color, so that's why I'm really hoping to get through this, because shorter repeats won't be such a big deal on sleeves.
Right. They won't be nearly as noticeable because the sleeves are smaller diameter anyway.
Or even if I get to this divide for the shoulders, they're smaller diameter, so actually it might look better for those, but yep, that's the plan.
Cool.
There's always a plan. Sometimes the plan doesn't go according to plan, but There's usually a plan.
Well, what have you been reading?
So I started rereading the Ordinary Magic series last night. So I started with the very first book because I haven't read the last two.
Ordinary Magic.
It's a Devon Monk series where they're in ordinary, like, Oregon, and gods go there to go on vacation. They leave their powers. There's been a murder.
Yeah, I think I got to like the fourth book in that series, and I was
There's 7 or 8.
done.
I really enjoy them, and I wanted to reread from the beginning. So I really also like her hockey series. She's got a really interesting hockey series and some other series as well. And she's a knitter, Devon Monk is. So I enjoy her stuff. So I am rereading that. I also reread The Kinsman Universe, which is one of my favorites by Alana Andrews. It's short stories. And I like short stories. They are my jam. So, yeah, that's the plan.
Cool. So I'm reading I think the fourth in the Starfig Investigations, which is Fairy and Impartial by Megan Maslow. It is male paranormal fantasy romance. Not paranormal, it's more fantasy romance.
And mine were adult male female paranormal fantasy with romance. But that's not the focus.
Yeah, no. The story, like the concept of the Ordinary Magic was really good. Sometimes authors can just do one weird trope that, or have one weird sentence that sets me off, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. Perfect example. Well, this isn't really a perfect example because it's more about a TV show than a book, but I was trying to get into a Netflix series about space, traveling in space. I forget what it is. Some artifact lands on Earth. It's been there for 5 years. It hasn't done anything. They send a crew out to research to try to get to where they think it came from and communicate with whatever. But I think I got to like 20 minutes in, and they're on the spaceship at this point, and someone's walking around in heels. And I'm like, nope. That's dumb. No one would do that in space in heels. That's just ridiculous. So I haven't watched anymore since then. I am not always fair or impartial. So, but I can say I've been on the recommendation of our friend Becca. I started listening to Maintenance Phase.
Yeah, it was Becca and Malia.
And it's by Aubrey Gordon. So it's an audio podcast. It's by Aubrey Gordon, who is writes under as Your Fat Friend, and she also wrote a book that I just finished listening to called What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat. And so it's hosted by Aubrey Gordon and Michael Hobbs, who hosts the You're Wrong About podcast, which we had a long conversation about when we recorded the first time.
Because I got sucked into downloading episodes.
Yeah, the You're Wrong About takes historical events. Sometimes it's pop culture, sometimes it's actual, like, legitimate history. And
pop culture is legitimate history.
Well, I mean more history that's actually recorded in physical books that you might learn about at school. More ancient history, I guess. I don't know what the correct term is. Less modern. I'm going to poke you with something sharp. I can see you grinning at me. But it takes a look at those events and how they were framed.
Less oral history, more traditional history? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I mean, pop culture isn't necessarily oral.
No, but pop culture becomes traditional. It has an influence on history and vice versa. So
look, older events
okay
versus newer events. I mean, it does both. Anyway, neither of those things are what this podcast is about. Maintenance Phase is about, it takes topics from the general wellness culture, diet culture, sometimes mainstream things that have to do with wellness, and it talks about them and sort of breaks down the understanding of those things. So the way that it works is either Aubrey or Gordon, or sorry, Aubrey Gordon, either Aubrey or Michael will choose a topic, and the other person, like, they'll do the research, and the other person either has very little knowledge about it or only like.
So they do more of the color commentary.
Yeah, and they ask questions, and
Yeah.
so they sort of drive the conversation. So they've done. They've got like a year and a half's worth of podcasts. I'm only about 8 through them because they're about an hour each, and they're great. I highly recommend them, especially if you are a fat person or if you are close to a fat person. They really helps you under. I mean, I recommend it for everyone because fat phobia and fat bias is a real thing. But they also talk about, how these things affect the disabled or the queer or the marginalized,
It's an
people of color.
intersectional thing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So they've talked about like Snackwell's cookies and something called Moon Juice, which was kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop sort of thing.
She's got a new show on Netflix, by the way.
I'm just going to move right past that.
Netflix was like, this is recommended for you. And I was like, I really don't think it is. Thank you.
Yeah. They talk about, so their most recent episodes that I'm saving because I really want to hear them are about the Rachel Hollis books, like the Girl Stop Apologizing books.
Yeah, Girl Wash Your Face.
Yeah. I can't wait to get to those, but I'm working my way backwards from the first ones.
And I do they go over like fads in diet culture,
Mm-hmm.
like the Nestle shakes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
I just finished listening to the Big Brother one, which was horrendous. But and they do tell you at the beginning if there's a trigger warning for specific things.
That's helpful.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I highly recommend it. It's entertaining and it's educational, and like I get sucked into them. I haven't listened to an audiobook in like a week and a half because I've been on these.
Cool. And she's got a Patreon, right?
They do. Maintenance Phase. They have a Patreon. And so I became a patron today. And all the levels, you get the same reward. It's just like bonus episodes, which
Cool.
I'm all about. I'm saving those too. But like you don't have to pay more to get the same content. It's just like what you can afford.
Yeah,
which is
nice. Great. I love that too.
So now that I've gushed about them for a while.
Oh, speaking of Patreon, we need to set up
Yes, we do.
our fail along, and also the last Sunday of this month, we will have a Patreon knit day for
our VKN.
Yeah.
Yep, we just have to schedule things around Laura's football. Like the Steelers.
They're on a bye week this weekend, so.
Well, but the VKN is Sunday.
Yeah.
So not next Sunday.
Yeah.
So
Is it?
Yes, I checked. Monday is the 1st.
Okay.
I know that because I had to put in a change request for something for work, and it was like I had to pick the right days.
Oh, cool! That means I get paid next Friday. That's exciting.
So yeah, so that's about it for that. We have a craft all the things.
We do. We have the Halloween craft all the things going on.
I feel like I hit the wake up button.
Yep. It's hosted on Discord, Ravelry, and Instagram. The hashtag for Instagram is TKG Halloween CATT21. You're welcome to put in any fall or Halloween related crafts that you've started since September 15th-ish. Yeah, it'll be super fun. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's all I got. We probably said entertaining stuff last time that we'll never remember.
It's lost to the void.
Yep, it's gone.
Lost to the void.
But yeah, that's it. So we hope you guys have an awesome week and weekend, and we will talk to you again next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.